here. It's something only I can do.
I've been thinking, crazy, I know it was a huge mistake from the start, but I've been thinking about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and specifically the story portion of it, because it's too big to think about all in one go anyway. I will warn you all now, fair warning, there's a big like warning sign like there-ish, you know, just fair warning, massive story spoilers for the end of the game. So if you're one of these people that's put like 500 hours in and still hasn't gone anywhere near Rito Village, you know, just leave. It's not worth it. But actually digging into the video, when I say story, I mean more than just those main story missions. I'm talking about everything that gets you from point A, starting the game in the chasms beneath Hyrule Castle, to point B, which has Ganon lying dead at your feet in a spectacular finale. So that's the main story, all the flashback memory type stuff, general involvement of the world, and everything that builds up to Link's retrieval of the sword that seals the darkness, which in this game is a lot. And I don't think anyone's going to argue with me when I say that Tears of the Kingdom is much better than Breath of the Wild on this front. But doth not mince my words, young squire, I love Breath of the Wild for all of its quirks and just existing, but on the actual plot front it was a touch lacking, and that's in no small part because it didn't really care. Breath of the Wild was much more concerned with the atmosphere, with putting you on a journey. It had just broken a Zelda formula that had stood since Ocarina of Time, and it was much more concerned with allowing you to fully experience that than the narrative. Not that there isn't one, it's just not the biggest focus necessarily. And it's a fairly common complaint for Breath of the Wild that all the juicy bits are in the past. Most of the game's narrative happens 100 years before you actually start playing. I never had particularly strong feelings against this decision, but as a man who likes a story I can dig my teeth into, I wasn't exactly huge on it either. But Tears of the Kingdom does a lot to remedy this, at least for me. It achieves a really nice balance between the let you loose type of game design that we got in Breath of the Wild and a much thicker narrative presence. Oh yes. It offers more direction, a more substantial and, quite importantly, present day story, as well as centering much of the side content around the events of the game. And I adore the game for all of these reasons. But as I was entering the game's final hours, a thought came to me, a thought that has only grabbed me by the back of my head and slammed me by the desk more and more each day since I finished it. Because I can't help but wonder if Tears of the Kingdom would have been more impactful in a more linear package. I'm not going to say better, because that's something I will come back around to, but nonetheless I think there is an argument to be made. And for me to properly make this argument, I'm going to contextualize things with the help of just how screwed Zelda gets and healthy spoilers for the end of the game.
What do you think?
One of this game's central plot lines is what the F train happened to Zelda after the lady just disappeared in the opening events of the game. Because as if this version of Zelda had not had it rough enough in Breath of the Wild, she has now been zapped back in time to the foundation of Hyrule, where her powers will be essential in the imprisoning war against Ganondorf. Through the Dragon Tear memories and little cutscenes at the end of each story section, you will gradually see Zelda's journey from arrival to the imprisoning war and the eventual revelation of what actually happened to her. And it is a fantastic story. It shows Zelda as a strong and resilient player and a key figure in Ganondorf's original sealing. And her wisdom shines through as she uses her knowledge of the future to make preparations to help Link in the here and now. This may be one of my favourite versions of Zelda, because even after holding back Calamity Ganon for 100 years, there's not a hint of hesitation as she chooses to make the ultimate sacrifice, losing her sense of stealth to become an immortal dragon and spend damn near eternity repairing and strengthening the Master Sword simply because she has that much faith in Link. Like seriously, just think about it. Just think about how long she actually spends as a dragon just flying above Hyrule. Pulling the Master Sword from the pedestal in Breath of the Wild is one of my favourite moments in the entire game, and one you can quite easily skip altogether. Tears of the Kingdom almost doesn't let you. There's a side quests that sends you off after the memories very early on in the game. They set up the ability to regain the Master Sword extremely early with the mystery of why it's flying through the sky. And then there's the arc of the final sage. The game's story has you waking up sages, similarly to Ocarina of Time, and after you've done the 4 main story missions, you are set on the trail of a final sage. Minoru, the Sage of Spirit, a Zonai who has long lost her physical body, but remained quote-unquote alive in the Puripad. By this point in the game, if you haven't already got all the memories and discovered what happened, Minoru will fill you in and also deliver the final piece of that particular puzzle before she practically tells you to go and get the Master Sword back from Zelda, if you haven't already. I'm going to stress that part even harder, if you haven't already. And once you've done all that, you're ready to go through the exquisite finale, which culminates in a battle against a draconified Ganondorf hundreds of feet in the air, where you are assisted by none other than Zelda, and let me tell you, I'm tearing up just thinking about it. But I personally decided to do all the unlockable memories and get the Master Sword before the 4th and final major story mission, before you kind of trail off into the end game. And this created a slightly bizarre effect. I wouldn't say it seriously impacted my playthrough, but it did get me thinking. Tears of the Kingdom is exceptionally well thought out in its questing. You kind of have to be in a game that's this open-ended. And I was very impressed by how many quests just have different dialogue options for if you've already accidentally come across the quest objective or something before you actually take the quest. It's one of the smoothest areas of the game. However, one instance this doesn't happen with is in regards to the quest for Zelda. When you meet the sages and certain characters, they all ask you the same question because you and Zelda disappeared at the same time. They ask where Zelda is, seeing that you have returned. Why wouldn't Zelda be with you? You know, it's common sense. And Link always tells them that she is still missing. But when it came to read you, this was akin to lying through my teeth because I knew damn well where Zelda was. It is only once you have the conversation with Minoru that the game does the check to see if you've done the memories and gotten the Master Sword, so that Minoru can go, oh wow, you've already done it, that's so cool, good job, but it does not do that check before then. See, what we have here, I believe, is a conflict between the more open-ended game design that Tears of the Kingdom has taken from Breath of the Wild and the desire to tell a more fulfilled story. The story missions end in the same cutscene with slightly altered dialogue because the information they deliver is important, but you can do the missions in any order, and so the information you receive always needs to be acceptable in any order. The memories, they tell and lead up to a complete and satisfying arc for Zelda that ties into the main narrative, but you can still collect them at random, and I assure you it's not even remotely impossible to come across the final ones first. It just seems a tad contradictory to me. And what is likely to be a world first sentence, this got me thinking about Skyward Sword. Now, I know Skyward Sword is not everyone's favourite Zelda game. The control scheme is actually work of the devil. But I love the game's narrative. Link spends about 4/5 of Skyward Sword chasing Zelda through all these insane trials and impossible fights, all purely to rescue someone he cared about. We watch him grow as a person on an intimate level and see as he becomes the original hero, just for him to finally catch up to Zelda and lose her again as she steals herself away to hold back demise, not unlike Zelda in Breath of the Wild. But Link forges ahead because just as it was her role to make the ultimate sacrifice, it is Link's role to defeat demise and set her free after her long slumber. It's a story that hits the right beats and has an excellent weight to it because it is designed to do so. Skyward Sword has you experience triumph, failure. It has Link let Zelda slip through his grasp to make sure Girahim cannot follow. And all these events are purposefully placed to create a complete picture. And in my head, I keep applying this idea to Tears of the Kingdom. I can see a world where we head to each of the regions in a distinct and designed order, where with each dungeon, more of Zelda's story is revealed to us. where we have all but the final piece when we reach Minoru and are immediately tasked with relieving Zelda of her burden before we take on Ganondorf. In my head, the impact of Zelda's story becomes all that much stronger and the resolution becomes all that much more satisfying. But then again, that wouldn't be Tears of the Kingdom, would it? It might shore up the story's emotional integrity, but it's not like it's bad. I was very much tearing up. And what would we actually lose for it? No more riding over those rolling hills in Zelda's golden horse. No longer helping this guy hold up his signs. No more getting lost and ending up on the other side of the map. No more hearing the unmistakable noise of a bubble frog but not being able to find the damn thing. No longer caressing a mountain to try and find the perfect spot to ascend your way up instead of having to climb the whole thing. Chulin wouldn't be getting too close and making me lose a boomerang I'd just gotten off the edge of a sky island because he just can't stop getting in the way. Chulin got in the way. Oh my god. Well, I could be like, damn, and he did that. There would be no moment when I realised what Zelda had done. A journey that took me all across Hyrule, getting so many weird weapon combinations and abilities, and then taking everything I'd learnt and gained into a final, definitive confrontation with Ganondorf, would no longer be. Rescuing a Zelda that has given it all more than once just wouldn't feel the same. What little Tears of the Kingdom actually loses by having a sporadic story that you have to put together yourself and a lack of more pristine plotting, shall we say, it makes up for in just existing. Tears of the Kingdom is beyond all else an adventure, evoking that same feeling from Breath of the Wild. This journey is your own, in searching for Koroks, completing shrines and side quests, and traversing the various biomes of Hyrule. You become attached to this land and its people in a way that you will rarely find anywhere else. And as your personal attachment grows, so does your sense of responsibility and satisfaction in facing and overcoming the trials that face Hyrule and Princess Zelda. What am I talking about? The Tears of the Kingdom is damn near perfect. I deeply apologise to anyone that sat through this just for me to tell them that Tears is great as is, but this is a thought that's been consuming me pretty much since I got toward the end of the game. I only started playing Zelda games after Breath of the Wild, but since then I've played most of the key 3D titles and I've gotten to know about this tension in the community, that being how valid Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are given how much they've left behind. And I thought a good way of comparing the two of them would be to compare the nature of their stories and the weaknesses and strengths of both of them. Because despite everything that's changed, if you actually look at the kind of stories they tell and the way they go about telling them, it's very much still Zelda. But that's enough rambling from me. If you want to know what's coming up, I'm normally playing whatever game it is over on my Twitch channel when my internet is working. Over at twitch.tv/imaginative, there will be a link in the description. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Subscribe if you feel like it. And leave a comment if you too have seen the truth and know that Skyward Sword is in fact severely underrated. Final Fantasy 16 should be coming next, unless I actually make something before then. Who knows? We'll see. If not, I will see then, I guess. I